Okay, welcome to the Crow Discovery Project. I had a lot of requests to take a look at the kind of high altitude thruster craft thing, so we're going to do that. By the way, this image, that's supposed to be a moon. Someone made this image for me and it was originally like a planet thing. I tried to make it look like a moon, but anyhow. It's going to come in at the top here. There it is, passing those big kind of smudgy areas on the moon. And this is the thruster vehicle that was posted, I don't know, probably well over a year ago. This was shot during the daytime. The sky looks black because I'm running city light filters, but it was perfectly blue skies. Sunset was not far off, but the sky was still blue when I shot this. Just happened to be very fortunate. I set up early this night, and the only downside is it's shot with my old equipment, so the resolution isn't what I get now. But anyhow, it's an interesting thing. It changed my point of view on a few things when I saw it because I had never seen any object where there was a light. By the way, that thing that fell down on the left side of frame is because I'm tracking to center. That's junk on my sensor. It's not an object going by. The only object in this whole entire clip will be the thing that's in the center screen now. Anything else is just junk on my sensor. And it looks to be moving by because the way I'm manually tracking the object to center. At the time, so many people went and looked to see if they could correlate this to some kind of a test being done or anything else, and I don't think we ever landed on anything that we could call for sure this vehicle. What we do know is that there's 3 thruster engines, and I think this clip is a good example of what I say about all that I filmed, that these are not alien things. These are terrestrial technology. Everything I have shot. The only thing that really makes you scratch your head is the shooting orb clip that was shot in chemtrails. That's the only one where you just kind of go, wow, I don't even know what that is. But this is clearly a machine, and it's clearly a machine with 3 thrusters. The interesting thing about this is, as I was re-editing, every time the thrusters come on as I track to center, the vehicle will have moved less. So each time the thrusters come on, the vehicle is slowing. When the thrusters are off and I would track to center, I would have to pull the object up to my little mark in the center frame much further. When the thrusters fire, it appears to be slowing this craft down. And it's unfortunate that one of the big drags about this clip is right when I cut the clip thinking I had lost the vehicle, I noticed right at the end there's an engine flare way down in the corner, which I knew about a long time ago, but as I was filming it I thought I had lost it, couldn't find it, and I cut the clip. Silly thing to have done. I should have left the camera running for a lot longer, which is what I do now. But let's look at some stills to break it down. This gives you a pretty good view of from frame 1 where there's just a slight glow on the thrusters, or what I'm calling thruster engines, and you can see them kind of flare up. And we'll take a couple views of stills because they're a little better resolution. When I get the video running and I zoom in, it gets grainy quick. And this was shot with my old equipment. I think this was the Canon T2i that I shot this with. Too bad. If I would have shot this with the Nikon, it would have been a whole other thing. Here's another view where you can see I'm not sure whether the vehicle is rotating and bringing the glowing engines into view or whether they're being fired. I tend to think they're probably being fired the way this looks when you run the sequence that I pulled these stills from. And then we'll look at 2 more here that show the engines. So on the one on the left you can see they're just starting to flare, and the one on the right you can clearly see the 3 thruster ports, whatever, I guess, I don't know what else to call them, the 3 thruster ports starting to glow up. And actually, as I was tracking this, when the engines kicked on in a lot of instances as I was tracking to center, I would estimate that the distance I had to pull the frame back was less than half. So I mean, those thrusters really are having quite an effect to slow it down. Alright, we're going to take another view here at 600%, 50% speed. And you can really see the difference between kind of the Canon T2i I started with. I think it had, I don't even remember, 16 or 18 megapixels. And the Nikon has 36. The full spectrum camera, Canon has, 24 I think. But megapixels make a big difference when you're zooming in on things in both video and stills. And in almost all cameras, when you shoot a still, it will interrupt the video, but the resolution in that still will be much higher for almost all cameras, all the cameras that I've had. All right, so I'm going to run this forward and backwards. This is when the first time, as I was watching, that I realized that there was a light. As I saw it on the monitor, I thought it was a light. I didn't realize that it was, till I got into the editor, that this was actually engines of some sort. So there it is, frontwards and backwards, the first time we see the engine thrust in this clip. All right, we're going to run a really heavy filter, which will kind of destroy the surrounding imagery, but it will really bring up the firing of the thrusters, so they're very visible. And that helps when it goes by the edge of the moon too. So it'll be coming here at the top. So that little kind of haloed object coming in, but what I've done here is made it so that the oranges and the reds and the thrusters really show up predominantly when they're fired. But what you can tell by this is there is a slight glow through most of the clip, even when they're not firing, which probably means that it's tilting towards us or tilting away from us. There's probably a glow the whole time. That would be my estimation. So here we come down, we're going to clear the edge of the moon, and you'll be able to see a couple of really big thrusts as we get by the edge of the moon here. There's one, I think there's one more. And this is running at 50% speed through this whole thing. When I was trying to track this, I had to move the scope so dramatically that it's really difficult to watch the raw footage if it's not tracked to center. It's just a lot of work because at 24 frames a second, you're pulling 24 frames for every second of video into the center of the screen manually. And I know a lot of people are going to say there's automated ways to do this, but I don't have a good automated way to do this with the way I'm doing. I do have some ones I've tried. They just don't do the same job as when I do it by hand. So I think probably about 30 or 40 people requested me to break down this clip again, which is why I chose to do this one today. And this was just pure luck, man. I mean, I think I set up a good hour and a half, 2 hours earlier than I normally do. I do sometimes set up in the daytime, but I set up really early this night, and I think it was within minutes of me totally getting set up that I caught this object. It was very quick, certainly within a half an hour, if I remember correctly. So it was just a very fortunate thing. Here's another view. It's brightened. There's some contrast. This is actually one of the better views. And then we're going to close out here in a minute with a full run of the raw footage with no manipulation whatsoever. Actually, that may not be true. There may be a little brightness or contrast on the last clip, but nothing else. There it is, clearing the edge of the moon. And this is a lesson in filming, man. Whenever you shoot something interesting, let your camera run for a good 20, 30 seconds, maybe even 45 seconds to a minute after you've shot the object. The temptation is to cut the camera when you get something interesting so you know it's at the end of the clip and you can find it easily. But Randy will tell you, he shot the lunar wave. He's got the only lunar wave where there's 45 seconds in between waves. And if he had not left the camera running all that time, we wouldn't have seen the second wave, or maybe it would have ended up on a new clip. But it's a good lesson because most of the time when you shoot something interesting like this on the moon, you want it near the end of the clip so that it's easy to go back and find. So lesson here is make sure you let your camera run a while. So here's the last view we're going to take. I think there might be a little brightness or contrast on this clip. Other than that, it's the raw view. But it was just a darn lucky catch that night. I think there's little doubt that this is terrestrial technology. In my eyes, there's little doubt that those are some kind of thruster engines. And that tells you something, man. We're in the 21st century. Shouldn't we be seeing technology that's beyond like burning engines like this? You would think, or at least that's what I think. So there it is. I'll let this run out. So cheers. Cheers.